In 1791, George Washington, the first president of the United States, chose the location where the White House would be built. Construction began in 1792, and the second president of the United States, John Adams, moved into the White House on November 1st, 1800. In the 223 years since it was first built, 10 people are known to have died inside the White House, and the deaths include 2 presidents, 3 first ladies, a first child, and 5 others. The first person and the first president to die inside the White House was William Henry Harrison. Harrison died on April 4, 1841, just 1 month after his inauguration. His likely cause of death was typhoid fever from drinking tainted water. He was the 9th president of the United States and was 68 years old at the time of his death. His presidency was also the shortest in American history. He's laid to rest here next to First Lady Anna Harrison at the William Henry Harrison Tomb and State Memorial in North Bend, Ohio. The second person to die in the White House was First Lady Letitia Tyler. She was married to President John Tyler and died from a stroke at the young age of 51 on September 10, 1842. She's buried at Cedar Grove Plantation Cemetery in Roxbury, Virginia, while President John Tyler is buried in Richmond, Virginia at Hollywood Cemetery with his second wife, Julia Gardner Tyler. The third person to die inside the White House was President Zachary Taylor. He was the 12th president of the United States, and he's laid to rest here in Louisville, Kentucky, and the cemetery is named after him. Taylor died on July 9, 1850, at the age of 65. It's believed that his cause of death was cholera or gastroenteritis. He died just 16 months into his presidency, making it the third shortest presidency in American history. As I mentioned earlier, William Henry Harrison's presidency was the shortest, and President James Garfield, who was assassinated, was the second shortest presidency. Taylor was a U.S. Army Major General who became a national hero during the Mexican-American War, which led to him being elected president. So this is the actual mausoleum where he and his wife are laid to rest in their crypts here. Let's see if we can get down here and see the names on the crypts. It's a little difficult to read, but I think you can see his name there. And this is his wife, and the inscription just says his wife, Margaret Smith, his wife. She was born September 21st, 1788, and died August 14th, 1852. The fourth person to die in the White House was the third child of President Abraham Lincoln, William Wallace Lincoln, who was affectionately called Willie Lincoln. Willie was only 11 years old when he died on February 20th in 1862. And it just so happens that this year, President's Day falls on February 20th, the 161st anniversary of his death. It's believed that his cause of death was typhoid fever, which resulted from contaminated food or water. Willie was originally buried in Washington, D.C., not far from the White House at Oak Hill Cemetery. But 3 years later, when President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in 1865, Willie's body was moved to Oak Ridge Cemetery in Springfield, Illinois, to be laid to rest with his father at Lincoln's tomb. The fifth person to die in the White House was Frederick Dent, the father of First Lady Julia Grant and the father-in-law of the 18th President of the United States, Ulysses S. Grant. He died at the age of 86 while visiting the White House on December 15, 1873, and he's buried at Bellefontaine Cemetery in St. Louis, Missouri. Elijah Hunt Allen died at the White House on New Year's Day, January 1, 1883, at the age of 78. He was a U.S. congressman who later became the Kingdom of Hawaii's minister to the U.S. He's buried at Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge, Massachusetts. First Lady Caroline Harrison was the seventh person to die in the White House and the second First Lady to die in the White House. She died from tuberculosis at the age of 60 on October 25, 1892. Her husband, Benjamin Harrison, was the 23rd President of the United States, and they're buried here together at Crown Hill Cemetery in Indianapolis, Indiana. Ellen Wilson was the 8th person and the 3rd First Lady to die in the White House. She was the first wife of the 28th U.S. President, Woodrow Wilson, and she died at the age of 54 from Bright's kidney disease on August 6, 1914. President Woodrow Wilson and his second wife, Edith Wilson, are buried in Washington, D.C. at Washington National Cemetery, but Ellen Wilson is buried with her parents at Myrtle Hills Cemetery in Rome, Georgia. White House press secretary and high school friend of Harry and Bess Truman, Charles G. Ross, was the 9th person to die in the White House. He also worked in the White House. He died from a heart attack while working at his desk on December 5, 1950, at the age of 65. And he's buried at Mount Olivet Cemetery in Washington, D.C., not far from the White House. Margaret Wallace, the mother of First Lady Bess Truman, was the 10th person to die in the White House. And in a weird coincidence, like Charles G. Ross, she also died on December 5th, just 2 years after Ross, in 1952. She was 90 years old when she died in the White House. She's buried at Woodlawn Cemetery in Independence, Missouri, just 2.5 miles south of the Harry S. Truman Library and Museum, where the President and First Lady are laid to rest. This week I want to thank my newest channel supporters, Nuala O'Donoghue, Dwayne Collins, My Daddy's Green Eyes, Leslie Carter, and Latasha Frazier. Thank you all so much for your extra generous donations to my channel using YouTube Super Thanks. They are very much appreciated. Thanks for joining me on another road trip to the past. Until our next trip to the cemetery together. Thanks for sharing the memories, everybody.